Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Currently Speaking, the podcast of the Current Consulting Group. I'm Bill Current, founder of the Current Consulting Group. Now, if you'd like to listen to or see any of our past podcast episodes, you can go to currentconsultinggroup.com, look at our archive of past episodes. You can also find us on all the major podcast platforms as well. Now, as a preface to today's podcast, I just want to say that I realize that this episode, the content, what I'm about to say, is probably not going to, well, not everybody will agree with it. There's a nice way to put it. And I realize that. And I mean, no offense to anybody, but I've got a certain angle that I'd like to present on the topic of will marijuana rescheduling affect drug testing? And I respect all the voices out there in my industry. Many of the people talking on this issue are really dear friends of mine, and I agree with almost everything they say. And this episode today is not intended to disagree with them. It just presents another angle or a different angle than we're hearing from a lot of voices in our industry right now when it comes to the rescheduling of marijuana. Now, as many Americans know, President Trump recently signed an executive order that would reclassify marijuana from its current status as a Schedule 1 drug to Schedule 3. And the difference between the two classifications, Schedule 1 and Schedule 3, is significant. Now, according to the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, they say the following about Schedule 1 drugs. Quote, Schedule 1 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. End quote. Then the DEA lists examples such as heroin, LSD, ecstasy, methaqualone, as well as right now, marijuana. Now, given the addictive nature of marijuana and the many documented ways in which its use is harmful to users' health, Schedule 1 is a perfect classification for marijuana, especially compared to the definition of Schedule 3 drugs. Again, according to the DEA, regarding Schedule 3 drugs, quote, Schedule 3 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with a moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. Schedule 3 drugs abuse potential is less than Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 drugs, but more than Schedule 4. And then they give some examples. Products containing less than 90 milligrams of codeine per dosage unit, like Tylenol with codeine, or ketamine, anabolic steroids, and testosterone. Now, there are people who fear the reclassification of marijuana will cause employers to stop conducting drug testing altogether. After all, why conduct drug testing if you aren't testing for marijuana, the drug that causes the vast majority of positive test results? That's a valid question, but perhaps not the most important question we should be asking. A more important question is, why do employers conduct drug testing in the first place? The answer to this question holds the key to the future of drug testing, in my opinion. In Current Consulting Group's 2025 annual survey of employers and drug testing, when employers were asked why establish and maintain a drug testing program, the responses were as follows. I'm going to rattle them off here. Bullet point. Promote a safe workplace, 85%, number one by far. Hire the best possible job candidates, 51%. Minimize legal risks, 49%. Comply with state laws, 36%. Reduce employee turnover, 28%. And reduce overall costs, 26%. Now, when employers were asked, what benefits does your company realize from drug testing? This is how they responded. Improve safety in the workplace, number one, 84%. Second was being able to hire better quality employees, 62%, which arguably leads to safer workplaces. A better company reputation, 55%, and improved productivity, 47%. Hence, while most employers conduct drug testing for more than one reason, number one on the list is to promote a safe workplace. And the number one benefit they say they realize from drug testing is improved workplace safety. Now, it won't matter to most employers, perhaps, how marijuana is scheduled. By company choice, they will likely continue to test for marijuana. This is especially true in light of the fact that the implementation of recreational marijuana laws is associated with a significant increase in workers' compensation claims. According to the Workers' Compensation Research Institute's 2025 report, enactment of a recreational marijuana law in a state leads to an increase in workers' compensation claims, averaging a 7.7% increase in claim frequency at the 1.7 year mark, 1.7 years after the implementation of the law, and 15% by the 5th year. Workers in safety sensitive jobs like transportation, construction, and mining, and physically demanding jobs, according to the report, saw increases of 11.7% and 9.9% respectively. Now, juxtapose those figures with the average cost of a workers' compensation claim, which is more than $44,000 per claim, and more than $90,000 when the accident involves a motor vehicle crash. Now, one step further, the 2025 Drug Testing Index, or DTI, from Quest Diagnostics adds another layer of clarity. According to the DTI, marijuana positivity following workplace accidents remained high. Quote, post-accident positivity was 7.3% in 2024. This is in the report that came out in 2025, which was just slightly below the record high of 7.5% in 2023. So let's add this up. Marijuana legalization, check. More workplace accidents, check. More workers' compensation claims, check. More cost to employers, check. Now, well, a lot of attention in the world of drug testing focuses on the DOT regulations, rightfully so. It's important to note that DOT mandated drug testing represents a small percentage of the overall workplace drug testing market. In CCG's employer survey, the one I referred to just a minute ago, only 12% of employers indicated that 100% of their drug tests are to comply with the DOT regulations, while 43% said it was 10% or less. Of course, among employers in transportation-related industries like the airlines, railroads, trucking, etc., the percentage is very high, of course. In the general workforce, though, it's not. And while the DOT regulations can serve as an important blueprint for some employers' non-DOT drug testing programs, and again, rightfully so, it's become sort of the gold standard. Outside of the regulated testing, employers' programs are governed by applicable state laws, not necessarily federal regulations, although the two can converge. Understandably, DOT-covered employers are concerned about workplace safety, given the very safety-sensitive nature of the work their employees perform. It is possible, and probably likely, that many DOT-covered employers will continue to test for marijuana regardless of its status under the DOT regulations or where it's scheduled, given all the evidence that links marijuana use to workplace accidents, traffic fatalities, and workers' compensation claims. DOT-covered employers, by their own company authority and in compliance with applicable state laws, are free to test their employees, including those covered by DOT, for drugs beyond those included in the regulations. This would include marijuana if DOT is ever stripped of its authority to require covered employers to test for marijuana. The fact that some trucking companies today conduct pre-employment hair tests, a testing methodology not currently allowed under the DOT regulations, possibly gives us a little glimpse into the future of employers' reactions to the rescheduling of marijuana. To some extent, it may not matter to many of them because safety is their number one reason for conducting drug testing, and marijuana interferes with achieving safe workplaces. Now, for those who are concerned that rescheduling will eliminate the authority of federally certified labs to test for marijuana, remember, outside of the federal regulations, employers are typically permitted to use laboratories with various certifications other than from the federal government, although that continues to be the gold standard, a SAMHSA certified lab. However, there are states that only permit the use of federally certified labs, and that's important to take note of. But it's possible that if those labs are not authorized to test for marijuana under their federal certification, then, and that would be due to the rescheduling of marijuana, it's possible those states may change their laws in order to give employers the option of continued testing for marijuana with different laboratories certified by different authorities. Now, additionally, rapid result urine and oral fluid testing are permitted in the majority of states, giving employers an alternative to lab-based testing if needed. And the use of rapid result test devices is increasing. In the CCG survey that I cited above, 22% of employers said they were likely or very likely to switch from lab-based testing to rapid result testing in the next 1 to 2 years. No one can say with absolute surety right now how the rescheduling of marijuana will impact drug testing in the future. I'm not predicting it either. There are still many unanswered questions. What we know for sure at this point, right now, as I record this podcast episode, is the president's executive order does not legalize marijuana. Marijuana has not yet been reclassified from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. That change is still in the works. DOT has stated that at this time, testing for marijuana is still required under the federal regulations, and they're not sure the executive order actually affects the agency's authority to require covered employers to test for marijuana. That's still evolving. Many state drug testing laws will be unaffected by the rescheduling. Some will be, but many will not be affected. There will continue to be laboratories that can and will test for marijuana regardless of what happens with the federal rescheduling of marijuana. And there are non-lab-based testing methods employers can use to continue testing for marijuana regardless of the drug status as a Schedule 3 substance. We also know that most employers conduct drug testing to maintain safe working conditions. And as I stated before, marijuana use interferes with achieving that objective, as evidenced by the dramatic increase in post-accident positive marijuana test results, according to Quest Diagnostics' DTI report, which I highly recommend. Go check it out at their website. Drug testing for marijuana helps employers achieve their safe workplace objectives. The choice is clear. Test for marijuana and improve workplace safety, or stop testing for marijuana and experience more workplace accidents that lead to more injuries and workers' compensation claims. If nothing else, the rescheduling of marijuana makes testing for marijuana more important than ever. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Currently Speaking. Again, if you'd like to look at past episodes or listen to past episodes, go to our website at currentconsultinggroup.com. We have an entire archive of past episodes there that you can access, as well as all of the major podcast platforms that are out there. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks with another episode of Currently Speaking. Have a great day.